Talking to Luke Ford earlier today, and he kind of put the fear of God in me a bit, suggested that maybe one of the reasons I've been asked to speak about the biggest challenges facing Jewish life today is that the implication was that he was one of them. I hope that's not the case. As much as I hope that, Shakespeare said, jesters oft prove prophets, but I'll do my best today. The challenges, I think, like the way we talk about challenges in the Jewish community all too often reverberates in the context of crisis. It's been one of the themes of the 20th century Jewish experience is galvanizing Jews behind a cause by emphasizing crisis, sort of the way that Fox kind of puts us on orange alert. So I'm glad that the question was framed as, challenges as opposed to the crises, because I think that it's just important to be conscious of that trope in the way that historically we consistently feel that one crisis replaces the next, and we have to panic. What's the thing to panic about now? What's the thing to galvanize the whole world? I think the two biggest challenges I can think of, and this goes back to a conversation we actually started having Thursday night at Selwyn Gerber's house over dinner, a lovely dinner at his home back in Los Angeles. And it's two questions that I guess frequently get asked in opposition to one another, but only, I think, really make sense when asked together. And those challenges are like who will be Jewish, I guess, in the future, and what will Jewish mean in the future. And I think what we found by talking about this the other night was that people tend to stress one question at the expense of the other. And they kind of need each other. The who will be Jewish camp tends to emphasize things like statistics and the 2001 survey and breeding, and loses track of the bigger questions about what this thing will mean going into the future, in an effort to make sure that there are people who are actually living it in the future. I think without asking, the emphasis, I guess, on statistics and numbers and populations and demographics, without the question of what Judaism will really mean in the future, when it's weighed down by this language of this talk of breeding and numbers, and it's sort of it leaves open the question why is it ignores the fact why this tradition is important going into the future. It just makes for an existentially kind of vacuous condition. We had this one story in the magazine about a couple of issues ago called "The Secret Life of Polyamorous Jews," and it was a story about these Jews who insist on multiple Jewish partners, multiple loving Jewish relationships, and the author of this story contextualized the phenomenon as kind of extension of the logic of Jewish continuity and this emphasis on breeding and numbers, and I thought that was kind of interesting. And the other part of the equation is what will Judaism be without the question of without bringing into the conversation our specific kind of mission, and just kind of, I was thinking about another article we had with this interview with Shmuley Boteach, where he said that Judaism was becoming the Buddhism of the contemporary era. So it's almost just like the way that this, the emphasis purely on Jewish values kind of loses track of the specific Jewish mission, and becomes enervated as a result. So I guess, something I've been thinking about the whole last couple of days, going back to our conversation, and I guess that's where I would start. Yeah, that's where I'm starting.
Great, Josh, thank you. Arnie, you're up.
Can I borrow your notes?
Sure.
I think a couple of things by way of opener. Firstly, everything that you said was very interesting and thoughtful. You know, for me, the most interesting piece of the Jewish story is just the notion of the Jewish people itself and the extent to which, in a rather astonishing way, we're capable in each generation of not only reinventing our sense of self, but reinvesting in the idea of Jewish peoplehood and what it means to be part of this moving enterprise. I would say that in a kind of ontological sense, we thematize our own existence. We've created as Jews a working poetic metaphor that keeps us going. I mentioned to a co-facilitator today, I don't want to say who it is because it's self-effacing for both of us, and it's fair to do to me, but not to he or she. You know, I said I'm sick, of hearing my own voice and tired by all the learning, at the same time, of course, invigorated, and we were both blown away by everyone's capacity to continue to learn through lunch, through dinner, till 2 in the morning. That's a remarkable story. I think that we're at a very positive place in Jewish history. I don't think there was any point in Jewish history where people believed in whatever it is we're supposed to believe in any more or less than now. I think we have always been a very complex, multifaceted, difficult, if not annoying people. But the idea that somehow this is a unique crisis is in some senses, and as everyone knows in the room, in other respects, it's entirely familiar. The growth and explosion in Jewish study, in arts, in culture, in cool things happening, it's hard for me to be concerned in the negative sense of the word, but rather excited by all the new avenues and discoveries of a Judaism that's never been identified before. This ability for all of us to speak to each other in this setting in the ways that we do is remarkable and deserves a shehechianu. That you have, you know, fur-hatted people singing with female rabbis last night in the guitar is a shehechianu moment. So I think that there's, without being Pollyannish, and I'm usually quite cynical, I think that we're living in a remarkable period where actually everything is possible because of our access to resource and intelligentsia and young thinkers. It's terrible, it's probably the first time I had to say that about a co-panelist, like as if I'm not the young one, but someone else is. That's a shehechianu. Some are better than others. So I think that without overstating it, everything is possible. And I think the greatest challenge is for Jews to stop being so self-conscious about our own future, obsessed with outreach, forgive me, and rather head over heels with our potential and possibility and commandment to build communities that are worth being part of. David Solomon said earlier, reminded us of the prophetic notion of Or LaGoyim. I think we need to rediscover what that means to have enough confidence in ourselves to build communities, and by that I don't just mean institutions, but build communities where others will look and say, that is how the world is supposed to function. That is how society is supposed to look. And yes, I'm describing a kind of utopic vision. Why not? And if not us, who else? So I think we have every capacity to create a utopic vision of how people live together, learn together, study together, love together, do for the world beyond ourselves. And now I'll turn to my much better looking colleague live.
Thank you. And it's good actually because Josh was talking about being polyamorous and Anna was talking about being Pollyanna-ish. So Clive, we look forward to which polytheism you have.
Okay, I'm going to be polyfiller-ish. No, that doesn't work.
That doesn't work. Well,
it doesn't matter. Well, this is the Limmud experience, really, because I came to be in the audience, and now here I am on the panel. I thought I'd come and find out the answer, and then I'm being called upon to give one. So let me start out by saying, I suppose, having had very, very little time to reflect on this,